Alrighty, here we are with lesson 10. When we're flying, we should always remember that we have this responsibilities as pilot in command, pre-flight action, and that's you got to know a lot of things about your flight. And one of the things you have to know is you have to know for any flight the runway links and airports of intended use. You have to know those things. So, how do you know that information? Like, where can you find that information at? And so that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson here. Now, you should know that there is no packet for this lesson. There's no notes to take. I debated giving you one, but I think it's just one that you just got to get out there and use these charts and things, and really just learn how to use them. So let's get to it here. So first things first, sectional charts and supplements. There's no notes for this lesson. Materials, you'll need a sectional chart, you'll need a chart supplement book, and a laptop. So let's talk about some different kinds of navigational charts. The first one is a world aeronautical chart. It has a scale of 1 to 1 million. And so it's used for long distance VFR planning. We don't use WAC charts. That's what we call them, WAC charts. We don't use them too much in class or anything like that. They're really, if you're going to be flying VFR long distances, you can grab a WAC chart. But the one we do use a lot is this one here, the sectional chart. This is the most common one. It's a 1 to 500,000 scale, and it's used for VFR, Visual Flight Rules Planning. It is the most common chart there is. And then you may have a need for a terminal area chart. This is half that scale. It's 1 to 250,000, and it's used for VFR in very busy areas, for larger, busier airspaces, things like that. So IFR charts, we won't use those in class, but there are IFR charts for IFR flight planning and navigation. I can show you an example of those in there as well. So that's the one we're going to use there, is the sectional chart. That's the most common one. So first things we talk about is obstacles. When you look at a sectional chart and you see little towers like this, these could be radio towers or windmills or whatever, and below them they'll have an elevation, 5,852 feet MSL, and then the number below it, 348 feet, that is in AGL. Now, if you want to, you can always look up skyvector.com and you can look up these things. I do not recommend using the zoom, like the pinch zoom on your trackpad. Instead, down here in the bottom corner down there, use this thing to zoom in and out here. And you can zoom in on an area here. And here we are in Park City here. And this is a sectional chart, and you can really practice things with this. So let's come on out here somewhere, and let's see if we can find some obstacles out in the desert here. We're out here past Wendover, and not seeing a whole lot here, but you can see a lot of airspace. There's a lot of military airspace. We're going to learn about the airspace stuff in a minute, but you can learn a lot from just playing around with these charts and kind of zooming in and looking at stuff here. Like there's a tower right there. This tower is 4486 or 270 feet AGL. UC means under construction, so that's what that means. So definitely be aware of those obstacles. The next one's what's called a max elevation figure. It'll be this kind of big blue number here. You'll see them like 7,900 feet. That means within this quadrangle, the highest obstacle is lower than 7,900 feet. Quadrangle is made up of these lines of longitude and lines of latitude, and we're going to do a whole thing in class on longitude and latitude. But this rectangle, they call it a quadrangle, inside that the highest obstacle is 7,900 feet. Well, and actually it's a little lower than that, meaning if you were at 7,900 feet or higher, you should clear all the obstacles. It's probably this peak right here that says Graham Peak, that's 7,560 feet. So it's giving you about 300 feet of clearance over that, which is not much. But if you're flying at night through this area, you want to be above 7,900 feet. The next one is our airports. We're going to learn about different kind of airports that there are. Magenta means that it does not have a tower. Blue means it does have a tower. If it's in a circle, that means that it's a shorter runway, less than 8,069 feet. I don't know how I chose that number. If it's in a kind of a rectangle kind of shape like the second one here, that means that it's longer. One of the runways is longer than 8,069 feet. If it's got little squares attached to the circle, that means that they have services there, such as fuel and maintenance. And if it's not colored in, that means that it's not a hard surface runway. It's something other than hard surface. It could be gravel or sand or grass or something like that. Now, on each sectional map, there is a legend. There is a legend that you can use. So so don't feel like you have to memorize all this, and you do have a copy of the legend on the test. Then we have different kinds of airspace, like Class B, Class C, Class D, Class E, and all those different kinds of airspaces there. And we're going to learn about airspaces in this next few chapters here. So we'll learn more about what those are. And then we have radio frequencies on our maps here. So like here, this is like how to break down of what all the different radio frequencies mean. But for example, if we go to go up to Ogden here, and if I zoom in on Ogden, got to kind of find it, but it's right there. Ogden Hinckley Airport, Control Tower 118.7. And it's got an ATIS, that's some weather information. It's 125.55. The longest runway is 8,100 feet. It's got pilot controlled lighting because it's got a star next to it. The field elevation is 4,473 feet. And there's a right pattern for runways 17 and 21, but you can just use your legend to figure out, a lot of that stuff as well. Just use that legend. You do have a copy of the legend in Appendix 1 in the red test supplement book that you'll be having on all your exams going forward. You'll have a little book that you take your exams with. Appendix 1, one of the first things in that book is that legend, okay? Now, it doesn't give you definitions of airspace and things like that, but you will have this on your exam. You will have this on your exam. And then we have this little book called Chart Supplements, and they provide information about airports and things like that. They have every public airport and even some private ones, and they're divided into states. So you got to know which state an airport is in order to know which supplement to use. So these are the different regions that we have airport supplements for. And we're going to learn how to read this in class. Now, there is also inside your test booklet an appendix that does tell you how to dissect this as well. So there's a lot of help there if you know how to use it. So look forward to that in class. This is kind of a fun lesson. You get to learn kind of how to decode some of this stuff, and you'll start to really feel like you're starting to tie all this together. Charts and chart supplements help do that.